I am 38 years old now, and a lot of people come in and out of my gym. A lot of young guys in their early 20s, and it's often the first time in their lives that they've attempted to train athletically, to do any sort of sport really seriously, and it's a big shock to their nervous system, a big shock to their body, the sheer amount of work and effort involved in MMA training. And so they often say, I'm too old for this. I should have started when I was a kid. And I think that's kind of funny to me. For one thing, MMA didn't exist when I was a kid. I mean, it didn't. And a lot of these kids are surprised when I tell them I'm 38 years old. And they're like, what? Because, in your 20s, anything north of 30 just sounds ancient. Anything over 40 sounds like, oh man, you might as well be dead by now because you're so old. If you're over 50, 60, whatever, people just think you can't function anymore as a normal human. You're basically handicapped. And age is not a handicap. When I was in my 20s, I was faster, especially with my snap kicks. Did a lot of taekwondo back then. That was my thing. And it was all about speed. It was all about how fast I could move. And now I'm a much better fighter now. Not as fast as I used to be in as far as that snap kick type of speed. But again, now I don't rely on throwing 5-kick combinations so much. Now I rely on being smarter, being in the right place at the right time. I think that's so much more important than being rushing to the goal. But I'm so much stronger than I used to be, man. Old man strength, that's a real thing. Yeah. This is a true thing. This is a true thing. When there have been studies. Sorry, I'm in my gym. I can't Google it and give you a link just yet, but there have been studies that show that the peak levels of human strength happen between the ages of 35 and 50. And that surprises a lot of young people because most of the professional athletes we see are younger. They're somewhere between 20 and 30. The people we send to the Olympics are generally on the younger end, so we tend to associate strength and athleticism with youth. But to understand that, we have to look at the whole picture of society. I mean, how does society work? As children, we are rewarded for moving. We play sports in high school. We play sports in college. Well, some of us do. Less of us do. And after college, well, what do? We go out, we get a job. Most of us, we sit, we stand, we sit, we lie down, we stand, we sit. Sometimes we walk from one place to another. If you live in the United States, often the most exercise you might get is walk to your car, get out of the car, walk to your office, walk up the stairs, maybe take the elevator, I don't know. Sit in a chair for 8 hours in a row. And that's what the average adult does in our Western culture. And we stop moving. Generally, we stop moving after college. And when we stop moving, we stop, well, everything. We stop all the important physical processes that keep us strong, that keep us supple, that keep us flexible, that keep us alive the way we are meant to live. And so it shocks a lot of people when they see an older person who is athletic, or an old person who is strong, or an older person who is flexible. Because in modern civilization, that tends to be the exception and not the norm. So I told a story the other day about an old man, a master of Tai Chi Chuan, who basically beat me up. He wanted to spar with me, and he threw me all over the ground, and it was shocking and it was surprising, and again, I would not have believed it unless I lived through that. Now, some of my viewers missed the forest for the trees with that story and thought I was telling a story about magic or mysticism, which is the wrong word entirely. Again, mysticism is the belief that the common person can have divine communication with God or angels or saints or whatever, and you don't have to be the Pope, basically, to receive a divine revelation. That's what mysticism is. I mean, that's what the whole Spanish Inquisition was about. The idea that if you know enough martial arts technique, you can throw invisible Hadouken fireballs or whatever. That's magic. Real martial arts, real fighting is grounded in truth. And that truth is simple physical principles of the physical universe. If I push this hard, the object I'm pushing will move that much, basically. If an object is coming at me and I move out of the way, I won't get hit, right? So when I sparred this old man, again, I said every time I put a hand on him, he was able to throw me. And again, I'd never sparred with anybody like that before. I'd never actually seen Tai Chi Chuan as a combative form. I'd only ever seen, the slow motion forms. But again, the whole point of that story was that this old man was an athlete, that he trained every single day from his youth, every single day, till old age. And as a result, he was able to perform athletically at an advanced age. And again, a lot of people have heard stories about, kung fu masters using almost magical abilities, and this isn't one of them. This is simply a guy who understood where to put his body. Somebody grabs you. Do they have control of you, or do you have control of them? Okay. Somebody's punching at you, you move your head, you slip. You're not there anymore, you won't get hit. Again, the guy just had a very advanced level of kinesthetic bodily intelligence. It's funny to me how it's hard for some people, especially in the jiu-jitsu community, to accept the idea that an old man in a martial art like Tai Chi Chuan would be able to perform at a high athletic level as an old man at 80 years old, and yet we're talking about a martial art, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, founded by a guy, Helio Gracie, who rolled until an advanced age, until his late 90s. Supposedly he was still rolling with his sons until the week before he died. And you can see videos of Helio as an old man rolling, and that's it is not a gentle task to roll. I mean, even going light or whatever. It is a demanding athletic sport. It's a lot of pressure on you, a lot of different ways. You need to be up to the task physically to do it. And again, Helio is doing that at an advanced age. And everybody who's been doing jiu-jitsu for a while knows that. And most people that I know who have been doing jiu-jitsu for a while, they say, I want to be like Helio. I want to be rolling when I'm old. I want to be able to do this for as long as I can. And most of these guys, they understand that as long as they abide by the simple principles of health, keep moving, stick to a good sleep schedule, eat properly, basic stuff like that, that they will be able to roll as long as they can, into an advanced age, if possible. One thing I've learned getting older, and 38, it's not that old, guys. It's not that old. It's not the 1500s anymore, where the average lifespan was much, much shorter. But one thing I've learned is that when you get older, a lot of people complain about aches and pains, but how I would describe that is a heightened awareness of proprioception. That is the sense of feeling your own body. In other words, you develop a higher sensitivity to your own body. So sometimes I wake up sore in the morning, and I feel where it hurts. I feel this, I feel that. I feel the individual vertebrae in my back. I feel the individual muscle striations and what's going on there, and how I need to pay attention to that in order to rehabilitate so that I can do it again. I spar a lot. I start my day generally 6 a.m. I'm in the gym. I do a lot of private training. I spar with most of my students. I finish about 10 p.m. at night. Generally, I'll have a lunch break in between at some point. I do strength training every single day, 6 times a week. I do take one day off, Sundays. I think it's very important to have a day of rest. I think that's both an important physical and spiritual principle. It's good for you. Even if you don't go to a church or believe in a religion, it's good to observe a Sabbath day, if you will. It lets your body recharge and rest and recover, and not just that, it's good for your mind. But again, if you could see what I do in the average day, you might think, how the heck does a 38-year-old guy do that? Because again, the average 38-year-old guy, in America anyway, in a big city, what's their life like? Again, walk, sit 8 hours, walk back to the car, drive home, sit in front of the TV, type on the computer, go to bed, wake up, do it again. Very little physical activity. And when somebody who's been doing nothing most of their life tries to do something athletic, they hyperventilate, they get tired, they feel like, this is impossible, I'll never get up to that level. They see something like a training montage. I think the movie Rocky, it's a great movie, I love it. You'll love those training montages. They're great, right? Because you see Rocky working out and hitting the meat and the thing, and doing his pull-ups and his push-ups and all those crazy exercises, and you're like, oh, I'm all pumped to work out now. I'm all motivated to go to the gym, and then you get to the gym and you try to do the Rocky training montage yourself, and it's like, oh man, this makes me tired. And then you think, oh, maybe I'll go back and do it the next day. You wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, it's early. It's so much easier just to hit snooze on the alarm, and I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes. But if you want to be a physically fit old man, the principle is very simple. Consistency, intensity, and a well thought out plan. Consistency meaning do something. That's rule number 1 of fitness. Do something. Something is better than nothing, even if it's get up and go for a walk. Statistically speaking, if you are morbidly obese, okay, there is a very high probability that you will die of a heart attack or stroke. The risk of cancer is through the roof. I mean, it's statistically, it's not looking good for you. But if you're morbidly obese and you get up and walk for 10 minutes a day, just get up and walk. You don't have to do the Rocky training montage. You are 90% less likely to suffer a heart attack or a stroke, and your risk of cancer goes down substantially. Isn't that weird? Just getting up and doing something dramatically increases the health benefits. Now, obviously, if we just get up and walk a little bit, that's not going to turn us into a professional athlete. That means, when getting up and walking gets easy and becomes a habit, when it becomes habitual, when we know, I'm going to do this no matter what, then we can add a little bit more. Maybe we'll walk a little bit farther. Maybe we'll walk a little bit more briskly. Maybe I'll hold some hand weights or something like that. I don't know, just something to up the intensity a little bit. Okay, then when that gets easy, we can add on a little bit more. Maybe I'll do a couple push-ups after my walk. Okay, and maybe the next day, maybe I'll do just one more. And the next day, maybe just one more. And on day 400, I'm doing 400 push-ups in a row. I've tried that before. It works. One push-up. Next day, do 2. Next day, do 3. Day 400, do 400. As long as you're consistent, that'll work. Consistency, intensity, and a well-thought-out plan. It's something one of my greatest coaches taught me. So rule number 1, do something. Rule number 2, do something that you enjoy. Because if you don't enjoy it, you will not do it every day. You won't do it consistently. I love mixed martial arts training. I love it. I love grappling. I love boxing. I love jiu-jitsu. I love Muay Thai. I love Sanda. I love MMA. And because of that, I train for it every day. I love lifting weights. Because of that, I do it every day. But again, if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. I don't love jogging, so I don't jog every day. Actually, I never jog anymore. That's a whole different issue. I mean, jogging, if you love it, if you like it, if you benefit from it, yeah, great, more power to you. Keep doing it. I don't personally do it because it's hard on the joints. And like I said, when you get older, you become extra sensitive to what's going on in your body, especially the joints, the knees, the hips. Got to pay attention to that stuff. But again, if you love jogging and you love to do it every day, yeah, do it every day. And if it is not giving you joint issues, sure, great, do it. But yeah, running is surprisingly hard on the joints, and so a lot of times I'll have clients come to me and they want to do some personal training, they want to lose some weight, and they'll say, well, what should I do outside of training? Should I do some running? And if you are heavily overweight, or even a little bit overweight, or even if you're not used to running, and you get out there and start running, boom, 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 every footfall is basically all of your joints, boom, 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 colliding into each other, grinding into each other with that body weight amplified by boom, the weight of gravity accelerating at 9.8 meters per second each and every footfall, and that's pretty taxing on the body. I love Jack Dempsey's book, Championship Fighting. I talk about it a lot, and one thing I like about that is it's a book that has stuff that'll benefit the advanced fighter, I believe, especially an MMA fighter who really, really could benefit from good boxing training. But it's also geared toward people who have zero experience and zero athleticism whatsoever. If you're a skinny little wimp, yeah, read that book and pay attention, and that's going to fix a lot of your athletic problems. But one thing Jack Dempsey mentions is the running regiment, the road work of a boxer. Because, boxers do a lot of road work. They tend to do a lot of running. They tend to do a lot of skipping rope and all this, repetitious cardio stuff. But he says, if you are not used to this kind of road work, start by walking. Put on your hiking shoes and go for a hike. Start out slow. Pace yourself until you get used to bearing the weight on your feet. Because if you go from sitting in a chair in an office all day to trying to run, again, you're gonna bang up your joints in a very bad way. And you might not feel it immediately, you might, but over time, that's not going to be sustainable if we rush into that thing. So again, overweight clients, they ask me, should I do jogging? And they're shocked and appalled when I say, nope. Why? Because there are better things you can do to lose weight. Much better things you can do to lose weight than running. I mean, running is, honestly, if it's a choice between sitting on the couch and eating potato chips or running, yeah, run. Yeah, again, doing something is better than nothing. That's rule number one. But if it's a choice between, say, high-intensity interval training and running for weight loss, yeah, do the high-intensity interval training. If it's a choice between a really smart strength training regimen and running for weight loss, I would say strength training. Why? Because we build up your muscles. You build up your muscles, you'll build up your metabolism. You build up your metabolism, that's where fat loss comes from. Look at the body of a sprinter and the body of a marathon runner. And on average, and of course there are notable exceptions to this rule, but on average, a long distance runner is a skinny little guy, not a lot of muscle on them, very slight frame. And a sprinter, an advanced sprinter, is a very muscular, powerful looking person. Big muscles, huge quads, well-built chest, almost like an aesthetic bodybuilder. Not to that extent, but much more so than the other extreme, which is the distance runner. And if you look at their training regimen, the distance runner tends to almost exclusively just run, paced running. What does the sprinter do? Google it. Google like professional sprinter training regimen, Olympic sprinter training regimen, sprinters training schedule. There's a lot of lifting in there. A lot of squats and deadlifts and strength training. And yes, there is some sprinting involved. Yeah, obviously, because that's their sport. But there is so much stuff that is not actually, I'm tempted to say running, but sprinting it's a whole different body mechanic than running. There's a whole different set of training exercises besides just the sprinting itself. So as a result, these guys get big, they get really strong, they get really explosive, and you can see just this body, which is just absolutely amazing. And when people come to me and they say, oh, I want to be athletic, I want to be lean, I want to look good, I want to get those beach muscles, they want to look like the sprinter. They don't want to look like the distance runner. And yet, so many people try to achieve that goal. They want to look like the fitness model. They want to look like the sprinter, but they want to accomplish it through distance running. They want to do it by, getting on that comfortable treadmill in the gym and, running at that nice leisurely pace for whatever time interval while listening to their headphones. And then they feel bad when they look in the mirror month after month and year after year, and they don't look like a fitness model. They don't look like a sprinter. And there's a very simple reason for that, because you don't train like one. If you want to look like a specific kind of athlete, you need to train like that specific kind of athlete. Now, I'm not big on aesthetics. I don't care. I don't care how big your biceps are. I mean, I care about what the muscles can do as opposed to what they look like. Are my arms strong enough to perform this particular technique so I can win the fight? If so, good. If they're not, I need to fix that. I need to lift some weights to fix that problem. But never ceases to amaze. never ceases to amaze how many people want to achieve greatness, but in their own time, in their own way. And our own way is nature's own way. And nature is, hear me out on this, nature loves efficiency, okay? Being big and strong and looking like a sprinter, looking like a bodybuilder, looking like a fitness model is not efficient. It's not. It takes a tremendous amount of resources and energy and food and time and all of this stuff that, you know, lazy people don't like to invest their effort into. Oh, and why are we lazy in the first place? Because we're animals, and animals are part of nature, and nature loves efficiency. Nature will always gravitate toward the easy way. But athletes, we act contrary to nature. We try to take the hard way. We try to take the high road, right? So instead of sleeping in, we wake up early and we go do something. We go lift or we go run or whatever it is that you do for your particular sport. So do something, rule number 1. Do something that you enjoy, rule number 2, otherwise you won't do it. Rule number 3, do something that you enjoy that works. Do something you enjoy that works. Okay? I touched on that already. Again, if you want to look like a sprinter, what works, do what sprinters do. If you want to look like an aesthetic bodybuilder, do what aesthetic bodybuilders do. If you want to look like a powerlifter, do what powerlifters do. If you want to look like an MMA fighter, do what MMA fighters do. Pretty much that simple, right? I had a guy come into my gym once, and he wanted some private training, and it's mind-boggling to think about what he told me. He said, "I want to look like an aesthetic bodybuilder. I want the body of a bodybuilder." I said, "Oh, okay. That's not really my specialty, but you know, I can point you in the right direction and you know, give you some tips and put you on a strength training regimen and whatnot." And he said, No. I'm not interested in lifting weights." Wants to look like a bodybuilder, not interested in lifting weights. Okay, and I said, "Well, all right. Well, what's your plan?" He said, "Well, I want to do distance running because I have this idea. I'm going to do you know, some jogging, and that's going to be it." I said, "Okay, let me get this straight. You're going to look like an aesthetic bodybuilder by jogging." "Yeah." All right, there's some serious cognitive dissonance going on there if that's happening in your mind. That's not how it works, okay? If all you do is jogging, you're going to look like everybody else who just jogs. If you want to look like a bodybuilder, again, you have to do what bodybuilders do. You have to eat, move, sleep, breathe, and think like those guys move and breathe and think and sleep and eat. Okay, did I get all 5 of those? Yeah, those are very important principles. 5 principles that will determine how we function as an athlete. How we move. That's the obvious one. Everybody knows you need to exercise. How we eat. And again, everybody knows that one too. Diet is very important. What we eat has a direct, immediate effect on how we perform. But again, most people tend to stop after those 2, diet and exercise. How we eat and how we move, super important, all right? Without those, nothing else comes into place. But the others are just as important. How we breathe. I'm sure you all took a great big breath right after I said that. Because again, we can't live without breath, but breath and movement are intrinsically connected. They are. We will only move the way that we breathe. Okay, and what do we exhale? Carbon dioxide. What do we breathe in? Oxygen. What's happening there? It's a chemical reaction. That oxygen is burning up hydrocarbons inside of the body, and carbon dioxide is the waste product. So what's actually happening there? Hydrocarbons are being consumed. That's those macronutrients we consume. Fat, protein, carbohydrates. That stuff that keeps us on. So, yeah, start paying attention to how you breathe. That is super important. Again, can't live without it. How we sleep. Yeah, that's number 4. Sorry, forgot how to count sometimes. How we sleep. Man, sleeping schedule is paramount to good health. If you eat like an athlete and you exercise like an athlete, but you have a crappy sleep schedule, you will not perform like an athlete. You're going to feel terrible, you're going to look terrible, you're going to perform terribly. So make sure your sleeping schedule is good. Go to bed early, wake up early, get plenty of sleep in that interval. And I can't tell you how many times I've had young kids, because it's always young people in their 20s, like college age or just getting out into the workforce for the first time, and they tend to have terrible sleep schedules, absolutely terrible sleep schedules. And they'll often come to me for training, and they'll work really hard in the gym, and then they'll go out at night and go to a bar or a club or something, drink with their friends, stay up really late, wake up the next morning, feel terrible, be dehydrated, hungover, and just I can't do anything today. And it's going to take them 4 or 5 days to recover from what should have taken 8 hours with just a simple good night's rest. And sleep. You need your sleep. There's no way around that. And if you are having sleeping problems like insomnia or whatever, I meet a lot of younger people who claim to suffer from insomnia. And there's a simple solution to that. Make sure that your sleeping space, your bed, is a dedicated place for sleeping. All right? Don't be looking at screens and lights and flashing things in your bed. All right? Don't be reading in bed. When you go to bed, your head hits the pillow, you go to sleep. That's it. That's all your bed is for. If you want to watch YouTube or type on the computer or look at your phone or whatever, do that somewhere else, right? Because that's going to interrupt your sleep cycle. It's going to mess up your circadian rhythm. So turn off the lights, turn off the screens. You need darkness at night when we sleep. That's important stuff. There's a reason the sun goes down at night. It's good for you. Okay? There's a reason we sleep when it's dark. So again, have a dedicated sleeping space just for sleeping, nothing but. And again, anything else, do it somewhere else. Last of all, how we think. That's number 5. Yeah, number 5, right. How we think. As a man thinketh, so he is, as the old saying goes. As a man thinketh, so he is. And this is not any less important than the others, because if we have a bad attitude, it will hold us back in a lot of ways. If we do not believe we are capable of accomplishing a certain task, we simply will not do it. If you get under the squat rack and you've got a big heavy load, you're trying for a new personal record or something like that, and you don't believe that it's going to happen, guess what? It won't. It won't. I mean, fitness is an act of faith. We have to exercise faith, and faith is not just a magical belief in something that may or may not be true. Faith is a true principle. Faith is believing in something that is true. Meaning, if I get under that bar, and I have worked up to that point, I have done the work, okay? I have lifted consistently for so many years, okay? And I've built up my muscles to the point where they are able to sustain that load. And I'm trying to lift just maybe 1 more kilo. than I did the previous time that I attempted to max out. All right? If I exercise faith and I believe that I can do this because I know it's a true principle, because I've exercised the faith by doing the work beforehand to build up to that point, then guess what? It will happen. But again, if I doubt myself, if I think, oh, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, it won't. All right? If you get into a fight, if you sign up for a professional fight and you step in that cage doubting yourself, thinking, maybe I won't win. Oh man, what if? Guess what? You've already lost that fight. And man, you can lose the fight at the stare down. You look at that other guy and you second guess yourself, like, oh, man, he looks really mean. Oh man, I don't know if I can beat him. He looks pretty strong. You've already lost that fight. You got to exercise your faith, and we do that in the gym every day. We get in here and we train. Training is an act of faith. Okay, and again, faith isn't magic. It's a true principle. The true principle that when we do the work, we get the result. Okay, why do we invest all those hours, all those hundreds and thousands of hours on the mat in training? Why? Because we believe. We have faith that when we step in the cage, if we have done the work, we will get the result. And that is a true principle. And that's why I love the Karate Kid, that movie, the original, not the remake, and I'll tell you why. And nothing against Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith, but the original movie, Daniel LaRusso, he's practicing the crane kick, and at the beginning of the movie, Mr. Miyagi teaches him the crane kick, and all throughout the movie, you see him practicing. And he's practicing that move over and over and over and over again, hundreds, thousands of times, I don't know. And he practices it so much, and then finally at the karate tournament, at the very end, he's able to use that move that he practiced 1,000,000 times. And it works. And here's why the original is better than the remake. In the remake, the kid goes to the mountain and he meets some monks or whatever, and he looks at a snake and he does this with his hand, and then he goes to the tournament at the end and he does this crazy backflip kick that he has never once practiced before in his life. And that's fantasy. That's not how it works. That's not a true principle. The original Karate Kid, true principle. Practice the kick 1,000,000 times and you have a pretty good chance of pulling off that kick in a real fight. Okay? The remake, look at a mystical snake, do backflip kicks. No, doesn't work that way. Okay? Now, as unlikely as a cool backflip kick is, I could have suspended my disbelief if Jaden Smith's character would have practiced that backflip kick 1,000,000 times, throughout the movie, and then if he pulled it off in the end, I would say, oh, okay, now I can buy that, because he practiced it. Okay? It was in his muscle memory, so he was able to use it. But that's not how it worked out. And so often, that's that Hollywood fantasy, you got to fight the urge to buy into that in real training. If you want to armbar somebody, you better do 1,000,000 arm bars in the gym under 1,000,000 different circumstances. Had a guy come into me for training once, a guy named Peter Darcy, also went by Michael Peter Darcy. I don't remember which was his first and middle name. Good guy. He'd been training at a couple of different gyms. He'd had a number of pro fights and lost a bunch of fights in a row. And he came to my old gym. And he said, I heard you help people win fights. I heard you're a pretty good coach. Let's see what you can offer me, because I've just been losing a bunch of fights. It's not working out for me at my old gym. And I said, well, okay, let's see how you're training. And he'd do what a lot of guys would do. I'd show the technique. He'd practice it a couple of times and kind of sit on the sidelines and chat with his buddies and all that. And I'd say, well, that's not how we do it here. Now do it 100 more times. And he'd laugh like, what? 100 more times? Are you kidding me? I'd say, no, like seriously, you want to use this move in a fight? You got to do it 100 times. And I asked him, what's happened in your last 6 fights, or however many it was he lost? I don't remember. He said, well, the guy shoots in and he takes me down and I get my guard and I just can't remember anything I practiced in the gym. I said, okay, we've got like 3 months before your fight. Okay, we don't have time to train you to be a superior wrestler at this point. Okay, so we know your opponent's going to shoot in on you. He's going to take you down. He's going to put you in your guard just like before. So here's what we're going to do. 1,000 arm bars a day from your guard. Okay? And he kind of laughed a little bit, but you know, we did it. 1,000 arm bars a day from the guard. 1,000 arm bars a day for 3 months. That is not an exaggeration. Literally 1,000 arm bars a day. You know, and we drilled it, and we drilled it, and we drilled it, and we drilled it. Guess what happened during that fight? Well, his opponent shot in because he was a good wrestler, got the takedown. My guy pulled up his guard, and almost like clockwork, boom, wheeled into the arm bar, and he finished the fight. He got the tap. And I wasn't surprised because this is what we had trained for, but man, my fighter, man, he was surprised. He came back to me and he said, it was like my body just did it all by itself. I was like, I was there and then my leg moved over and I got the arm and then it just happened. I was like, yeah, that's how it works. You do the work in the gym and you get the result. You train your muscle memory, you train your body to move without thinking, because in a fight you don't think. Boom, you take one of those, you stop thinking real fast, you start reacting. All right, and if we haven't reprogrammed our reactions, we do some really stupid stuff. We flail and we flinch and we turn our backs. So again, the reason we train in the gym is to instill new instincts, better instincts in our muscle memory. But man, I love the look on his face. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe he'd won that match. But I tell you what, exercise faith in true principles, you'll see the result.